Was that question, Mr. Taggart, telling me that we are ready, or am I ready?
I'm saying to RIT and Rogers we're ready to go live as soon as they give us the thumbs up.
Okay.
I think we are live now.
We're live.
Yeah.
Hello, welcome everybody. Welcome councilors, administration, and certainly welcome the town of Ingersoll to this regular, well, none of them are regular right now, are they? But certainly it is our regular meeting of council this September 14th. I welcome all. Just a few opening comments. I believe that our councillor, Christy Van Kooten-Bosens, would like to make a few comments before we get rolling with the council meeting itself. Over to you, councillor.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. So I just wanted to put it out there that your phone calls have been working. Please continue with your phone calls to CN. We are getting Mutual Street fixed the week of September 21st. So I wanted to make sure that people understood that that was going to be blocked off for that week while that's getting fixed. The following week, OSR is going to be working on Thames Street from September 28th to the 30th. And they are going to be fixing those tracks which are closest to the Presbyterian Church, for those that are wondering which tracks those are. But keep phone calling. We still need Pemberton Street and 10th Street for CN to be done. I myself have called in. It is not a town issue. We can't do it ourselves. So by all means, please keep calling in and putting that word in that we need those train tracks fixed. It's the way we'll get it done. So thank you, Your Worship, for letting me speak about that.
If I could add on to that, Christy, I have spoken with Danielle Salvatore, who is the crossing manager as far as construction is concerned. Him and his construction crew will be down to look at the Thames Street crossing tracks for CN, the double tracks there, and see what needs to be done or what can be done to potentially stop the repeating repairs. Oh, they'll always need repairs down the road, don't get me wrong, but they seem to fall apart very quickly. It was brought to our attention a while ago because of the angle of the tracks at that point in time, making the curve, that the actual tracks themselves were at a wrong height or level as such. And so maybe they can expand upon that. I mentioned to him also maybe that at some point in time that he has a delegation to council, and maybe so he's going to think about that also. I know that Councillor Petrie had brought it to our attention the last time that he would like to be aware of these things happening, and I did send that information through to Brian that they may be coming down to visit. They may let us know they're coming, they may not.
That's great. Thank you, Your Worship.
Is there a councillor that would like to have any additional information brought forward at this time? The only thing I have is just a preparation for council to think about. And that is, we have all been, I believe, inundated with phone calls and emails over the years about our bylaw enforcement. And I think that somewhere along the line, we have to kind of address the situation. I believe I made a comment a while ago. It's tough to make a bylaw and then have no means to enforce it. So I think that it'd be nice to at least look at the situation on whether we at budget deliberation time look at the possibility of bringing on a bylaw enforcement agent or two, or whatever the status is, something just to take a look at to see if it is makes sense cost-wise, and just something to be able to talk about at budget time, because that's the time to bring it forward if we're going to bring anybody on board to enforce the bylaws. We know it's very difficult when it's sound or when it's backyard fires, or this, that, or other things. We know we have our fire department that's active with it. We also have our building department that's active with it. So maybe we can free up some time on our other staff if we had a staff on. All I'm saying is that let's talk about it at budget time. I'll bring it forward at that time for us to discuss, and maybe we can have administration at that time kind of update us on what costs would be, or what direction we could go in if we wished to go that way as a council. Alrighty. Right now, I'm going to ask if there are any declarations of pecuniary interests. Councillor Petrie.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a pecuniary interest pertaining to report C-025-20 parking permit review as I use parking permits.
Thank you. Seeing no more, thank you very much, Councillor, for bringing that forward. Before we go into the actual body of our agenda with the approval of minutes, maybe I could pass it back to our CAO for a potential introduction
Yes.
of new staff.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's my pleasure to introduce the council tonight to Devon Staley. She's joining us as our new CVO, or she will be tomorrow after you consider the bylaw this evening to appoint her that position. Devon comes to us with many years of experience in this role. Her most recent role has been as a deputy CBO for a larger municipality. So we're excited to have Devon join our team. And Devon, if you're online, she was having a little trouble with her connectivity. If you just want to switch on your video and give council a wave, for those that haven't met you, it might be nice to share your face with them. In normal times, there's Devon, hard at work in the office, waiting for the bylaw. But Devon, this was her first day at work, and we're excited, as I said, to have her join us. And I'm sure she'll be a positive contribution to her role and the corporation itself. So welcome, Devon. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Devon, on behalf of council, welcome to the team. There is a great team in our administration. They work hard and they're fun to be around. So you're coming on to a great staff as far as I'm concerned. And on behalf of council, I welcome you. I know that individually the councillors will be giving you a call and saying hello, but formally at this meeting, welcome aboard.
Thanks, Devon. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
I'd like now to call upon Councillor Petrie for approval of the minutes of August 10th.
Your Worship, moved by myself that the minutes for the August 10th meeting, 1 and 2 regular meetings of council be adopted as presented.
Could I have a seconder on that, please? Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Those opposed? This is passed. Councillor Hughes, please. The minutes from September 3rd special meeting.
Moved by myself, Councillor Hughes, that the minutes from the September 3rd, 2020 special meeting of council be adopted as presented.
Could I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens. Those opposed? This is passed. Now go into council committee minutes. Deputy Mayor Freeman, if you can hear me and you have good contact, BIA meeting of June 23rd.
I do, Your Worship. Thank you. Moved by myself that the minutes from the June 23rd, July 14th, and August 11th, 2020 BIA meetings be adopted as presented.
Could I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Lesser. Those opposed? This is approved. Thank you. Moving down to Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens at the safe cycling minutes.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself that the minutes from the Ingersoll Safe Cycling Committee meetings dated December 11th, 2019 and June 23rd, 2020 be adopted as presented.
Could I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Petrie. Those opposed? Motion is passed. Thank you. Councillor Lesser, please.
Moved by myself that the minutes for the Upper Thames Board meeting dated June 23rd, 2020 be adopted as presented.
A seconder, please. Thank you, Fred. Sorry. Deputy Mayor Freeman. Those opposed? This is passed. Thank you. We're going now into check distribution. Councillor Petrie, please. Councillor Petrie?
I apologize. My computer is just not working at the second. There we go. Moved by myself that the July check distribution be adopted as presented.
Could I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Those opposed? This motion passes. Thank you. Moving now into special reports. Digital sign policy. Councillor Hughes, please.
Yeah, here it is. Moved by myself, Councillor Hughes, that the Council for the Town of Ingersoll receive staff report A-026-20 as information, and further that Council approves the municipal digital sign content policy as attached, and further that this policy shall take effect September 15th, 2020.
I suppose I jumped the gun there on not having the actual report read before the motion, and I apologize on that. I'll pass this over to our CAO. Bill, if you wish to direct this.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe our Economic Development Officer should be online and can join us to walk you through the report and answer any questions council members might have. Curtis.
Thanks, Bill. The policy for council's consideration was drafted based on best practices research from other communities and would ensure consistency when staff are permitting or denying requests for content on the digital sign. Groups can submit their events using a form on our website at ingersoll.ca/community-calendar. The policy is attached to this report for council's consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions, please, for Mr. Ty. None at this point. Oh, certainly, Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens.
No, go ahead, Councillor Lesser.
Okay.
Councillor Lesser can go first.
Okay.
Well, no, I've asked you, please.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
Anyways, when I was reading through the area of messages not allowed, I just had a little bit of concern. On page 70, I think it was item B, political advertising will not be allowed. I understand that we're not going to allow a person to advertise that they are campaigning, but it doesn't say that the town can advertise. Just say that, let's say the election is in 2 weeks or whatever the date of the election. Might be splitting hairs, but we've gone through this before as a council where the town has mentioned something and people have felt that gives the incumbents an unfair advantage. So I just think we should probably clarify that it's, again, not for our personal use. It will only be used by the town to advertise the dates of elections.
Michael, do you have a comment on that?
Perhaps I could speak to that one. I think in the policy, if we define political to mean that it couldn't be used by any candidates in the election, the actual advertising of the election is not, in my opinion, political. It's advertising that there is a democratic process being undertaken, and it would not favor any one individual candidate. It would just say that, you know, this is the dates of the election, and here's where you find out the information about the election and your ballots and so on. So perhaps we need to refine in the policy a little bit how we define political there. To me, I think it's clear already that political means not for a political candidate, but we could clear that up in the policy.
The policy does state messages from the town of Ingersoll, so I think that would fall under that category of message from the town of Ingersoll.
Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens.
Actually, it was the same thing. It's all good.
Thank you. All right, Councillor Hughes, do you feel it necessary to reread that, or are we okay with how the motion was read?
It's, I guess, up to the rest of the council. If they want it reread, I can reread it.
Not seeing any requests. Could I have a seconder on that motion? Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens, thank you. Those opposed? Thank you very much. This passes. Physician recruitment.
I'll take that
CEO.
one as well.
Okay, Curtis. Thank
Sorry.
you.
At the August council meeting, staff were directed to draft terms of reference for the Ingersoll Physician Recruitment Committee. Staff reviewed other terms of reference for Ingersoll committees and other communities' physician recruitment committees as well. We've outlined the terms in the report, and a number of council members have indicated an interest in participating in the committee, as well as Dr. Taylor and Sandy Jensen. I've been serving on the county committee and would like to be the staff liaison for the committee with the Economic Development and Tourism Assistant. We've had other interest from members of the community to serve on the committee, and we'd recommend that 2 to 4 additional community members be invited to join, with a call to be put out by staff with a preference given to folks with a medical or recruitment background. The next steps for council's consideration would be to decide which council members would be on the committee. If council agrees with staff that Dr. Taylor and Sandy Jansen should be members, and if they agree with staff liaison proposed, and if council wants 2 or 4 additional members of the public. Happy to answer any questions.
Certainly, I think that's open for some discussion now, certainly before the motion is read. Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, I would personally like to see 4, 3 or 4. Well, I guess 2 or 4. I'd like to see 4 members of the public. If we can find 4 members of the public, that would definitely expand our potential reach and coverage, because not everybody knows everybody. So I'd like to see that. And also too, I would like to put my name forward to be on the physician recruitment committee.
Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens.
Helps if I unmute myself. I am in agreement with Councillor Hughes. I think that 4 members actually from the public, I don't think we'll have a problem in finding people within our community that want to serve on this committee. I spoke last meeting that very much in favor of getting this committee going. We are definitely in a shortage. I personally have just lost my own physician. He's leaving his practice, and so I have very personal interest in wanting to try to see us get some doctors into this community, and would of course be very interested in serving on this committee, but I think that it should be at 4. I don't think we will have any problems in getting 4 people to serve on this committee. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Further comments? Deputy Mayor Freeman.
Thank you, Worship. I feel the same way as well. I think that we should have as many people as possible, well, the maximum of 4 members of the community to come out and be involved. And if we can't get 4, then fine, 1, 2, or 3, as long as we get some members of the community that are interested in coming out. Thank you. I too would like to put my name forward for the committee.
We're looking at 3 members, right? 3 councillors. We can't have 4, so we can only have 3.
That's correct.
Further comments or thoughts? Okay, we have 3 members who want to put their name forward already. So I won't. I would love to be on the committee, but I see we have 3 that are already wishing to be there. So that's fine. Can you now read the motion, Fred?
I can do that, Your Worship. Moved by myself that Council receives staff report A-027-20 as information and approves the terms of reference for the Ingersoll Physician Recruitment Committee. And further, that Council appoints the Economic Development Officer and Economic Development and Tourism Assistant staff liaisons and Dr. J. Taylor and Sandy Jansen as members of the Ingersoll Physician Recruitment Committee. And further, that Council appoints the following council members to the Ingersoll Physician Recruitment Committee: Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens, Councillor Hughes, and Deputy Mayor Freeman.
Discussion? Could I have a seconder on that, please?
There's more to it, Your Worship.
I think I received from Councillor Petrie first there. Thank you very much, Councillor.
Your worship, point
Yes?
of order. There's more to the motion than that. There's also
Sorry.
additional members.
Oh, I'm
You are
sorry.
absolutely right. I stopped at the names. And further, that council directs staff to advertise for an additional 2 to 4 members, I would say 4, of the public to apply to be members of the Ingersoll Physician for Recruitment Committee.
Okay, so we, if with a friendly amendment there, can you not 2 to 4 stay 4? I believe that's what most of council would like to see. So that it actually will say 4 there on the motion, clerk. Okay, I have a seconder on that, and now I just ask, yeah, Councilor Petrie? Oh, I had you already. Sorry. I didn't know if you wanted to make comment. Anyone else for comments on this? All right. Thank you very much. Those opposed? This motion is passed. Thank you. Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens, please. The MURC status, but I will ask now for certainly Curtis if he will expand on any information he has pertaining to the MURC. Or is that yourself, Bill?
That's my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Okay. So at the August regular meeting of council, when they were informed that we weren't successful in Canada-Ontario infrastructure program, a request was made to staff about where do we go from here as far as the future of financing the multi-use recreation facility. So just before I start my comments, my overview, this is just about financing the capital physical structure. We're not going to talk about the site location for the time being. There'll be subsequent reports coming to council talking about North Town Line versus our industrial park. But this is about actually how would this municipality go forward in financing the actual construction of a new recreation complex. So staff talked and we've presented a number of ideas, and I would like to say these are at a very high level. We've said a couple times in the report that council may and probably should consult with the community on how they proceed from here with lack of funding. And there might be some other ideas that members of council wants to bring forward or that the public might suggest in part of that community consultation. So I think I've laid out the options as staff were able to identify them. And we put some very preliminary costing to those options for council to kind of get a sense of what you'd be looking at with those different scenarios. So I would be happy to try and answer any of councilors' questions tonight on that and look for council to provide some direction on where we take this from here. Thank you.
Okay, please start us off with questions or comments. Councillor Petrie.
Thank you, Worship. I think we have to go back out to the community and see their thoughts on this, get some input. We thought we had a direction forward that's changed now. So we're not talking a few dollars or cents, we're talking millions of dollars. So or a change in scope, at least from what we're doing. So I would be in favor of just putting the brakes on for a second and getting some consultation from our residents.
Further comments?
Yeah.
Councillor Lesser?
Generally, I'm going to agree with Councillor Petrie. I didn't have a problem actually with us waiting into 2021 to see if there will be another round of funding coming through. I felt the same thing. It will give us a chance to also talk to the public and see how they feel about it. If that funding doesn't come through, are they willing to live with the sort of tax increases to how much, which gives us an idea of what we can do. Also, let's face it, we're not going to really deal with this until budget, which isn't that far away, but it also gives Irina a chance to number crunch and get the numbers a little closer, depending on the scale of the project. So yeah, I guess, again, I'll agree with Councillor Petrie. Let's put it off for a bit, talk to the public and see what they have to say.
Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens.
So I don't have any problems with that. I've been a big proponent that if we don't have federal and provincial funding, in my own personal opinion, this isn't something that we can go forward with. I think that it would be too much of a tax burden at this point in time, especially with the pandemic, still with us, and people are finding it hard to still get through their daily lives right now. So I don't have a problem in waiting to see what happens in 2021 if we get chosen as a part of the second intake. If that actually happens, I have my doubts, but what's the harm in seeing if we get in there? But otherwise, I would want to go back to the public as well and find out where their level of comfort would be. You can read on social media that it's a wide range that's out there right now. I've seen everything from option 1 to option 5. I've seen an option 6 thrown at us as well. So, I mean, it's nice to be able to read what some people are thinking out there, but those people on social media aren't the only people as well. And it would be great to go back to some of our users and see what they have to say as well. So I'm certainly, I don't want to put brakes on completely. Let's see where things happen for 2021. And in the meantime, we can continue to firm up everything, as Councillor Lesser said.
Yes, thank you very much, councillors. I think that I believe I agree with everything that's actually been said. I think that waiting for a few moments to be able to see where the federal government's going to go, it's kind of a funny feeling. It can go one way or the other. They can say, because of the pandemic, we're holding back on dollars right now, sending out to et cetera, because of the funds that are available, and maybe the direction of those funds is better in one direction than in recreational. Who knows? Or my thought is that they could go the opposite way totally and say, here's a great incentive to get communities back going, to get the economy rolling again. You get construction going, you get development going. Who knows? So I think it's a fair time frame for us to hold off for a year to be able to see where the public wants to go with it. I agree. And also to see where the federal government and the provincial government may swing things to see if there's any dollars out there at that point in time. I think we got a little bit of a breathing time. So that's my thoughts on it. Any further comment on this time, or should we have the motion read? Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens, could you please read the motion?
Certainly, Your Worship. Bill, within this, it just says "and deliberation." Can I just say the direction that's been given by council at this point in time? Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Moved by myself that the council for the town of Ingersoll receive staff report A-028-20 as information and direction given at council meeting to be considered. Is that okay? Michael? Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Can I have a seconder? Can I have a seconder on that?
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Lesser. Those opposed? This is passed. Thank you. Boundary adjustment update. Over to you, CAO, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So it might seem rather anticlimactic to have like a one-page report that culminates in, a decades-long discussion with our neighbors about a boundary adjustment. But the agreement is before council tonight. It contains all the provisions that council is very familiar with, the compensation packages, the requirements for residential density development, the sharing of road maintenance, and all the different factors that have gone into those years-long discussion. So there's no surprises there. It was a little bit more complex putting into words the concepts that were actually agreed to, but we worked quite well with our partners in Southwest Oxford. Our lawyer was very diligent in working through the process. The lawyer from Southwest Oxford was very good in working with our lawyer to try and get this in front of council. And my understanding is that we're dealing with it tonight. Southwest Oxford will be dealing with it on their regular agenda tomorrow. And Next stop will be the county, if approved at both those levels, and then on to the minister for consideration and hopefully approval for a January 1st implementation date. I'd be happy to answer any questions that council members might have.
Doesn't seem to be any questions at this time. We could comments or whatnot after the motion's read, or no, we have a question from Deputy Mayor Freeman.
Your worship, it's comments, so I'll wait until after the resolution.
All right, that's what I thought might be a nice. Councillor Lesser, would you read the motion, please?
Sure. Moved by myself that the council of the corporation of the town of Ingersoll receive report A-031-20 as information, and further proceeds to approve the bylaw and authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into the agreement with Southwest Oxford in substantially the same form as hitherto attached to the bylaw as approved by the town CAO and solicitor.
Could I have a seconder on this, please? Deputy Mayor Freeman? Okay, now everybody is aware before comment that this will be a recorded vote. So I believe the clerk, you run the recorded vote, but what we will have right now is any comments that wish to be made. Deputy Mayor Freeman, you had your hand up first originally.
Thank you, Worship. Well, I'm going to take the opportunity. I don't know how many times I have said this over the months, the years. I want to thank you, Your Worship, Councillor Lesser, for being on the committee, our CAO, Bill Tiger, the rest of council, all of our staff that have had a huge amount of input. You've worked also very hard to make this happen. And again, our counterparts to Southwest Oxford for their council, their committee, their council, their staff, everyone has worked very hard. And you know what? It's not it's a good deal. It's a great deal as far as I'm concerned. It's great for the town of Ingersoll. It's not, we're paying more than what we wanted to, but that's what you get when you negotiate with anyone these days on no matter what it is that you've been negotiating on. I just really want to say this is our future. And thank you to all of you for moving us forward, because you've job well done. All of you. Thank you very much.
Further comments? Councillor Petrie?
Thank you, Worship. I want to follow along with Deputy Mayor Freeman on this. This has been a very long process. It's been a very worthwhile process in my eyes. I want to say to people, don't look at what we're giving up. Look at what we're gaining. We're gaining the financial security of our town going forward. We're gaining more jobs. We're gaining industrial land that's badly needed. Our ability to grow and move forward as a corporation and as a town. I want to thank staff. Reading that bylaw, that you can see the amount of work that has to go into agreements such as this. Not only all the little coordinates that you go 45 degrees and then 20 degrees this way, and to map it all out, but to make sure that everything that the committee, which I also want to thank, has talked about and agreed to is written down in a legible, agreeable way. So thank you for everybody involved. This is a major, major thing for the town, and hopefully it'll serve us for years to come.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens?
Councillor Petrie put that so well that I'm just going to say ditto, because I think that's all that needs to be said. Thank you to everyone. You did an amazing job, and you're right, Councillor Petrie. This has set us up, set our community up to thrive now within the future. Thank you.
Well, my comment on it is that it's been a long haul, but no longer do we look past, we look ahead. And looking ahead is exciting because the amount of residential and commercial and certainly industrial land that will be available for councils for years to come. And it is something that is we can be very proud of if approved certainly by Southwest Oxford and county and the province. We'll put Ingersoll on both sides of the 401. recognizable and certainly put us into a status of that we're here and we are open for business. We do have land available. And that part of it is, I believe, is very, very exciting, not just for this council, but for many councils to come in the future. And certainly to have the development and the growth of, to be part of that development and growth of the town of Ingersoll for years to come. I certainly do thank the committee, administration, and all of council for their part in making this at all possible. We have a seconder on that. I pass this back over to you, Clerk, for a recorded vote.
Thank you, Your Worship. Was the Deputy Mayor that requested the recorded vote, so I will begin with him and then go alphabetically. We normally go around the the horseshoe, and unfortunately this is not capable of doing this in this setup, so we'll go alphabetical after that. So Deputy Mayor Freeman, your vote?
Yay.
Councillor Lesser?
Yay.
Councillor Petrie?
Yes.
Councillor Van Kooten-Bossens?
Yay.
Mayor Comiskey?
Yes.
And Councillor Hughes?
No.
The vote is passed and therefore carried.
Thank you, councillors. Cemetery Board request. I believe this is over to you, Michael.
Yes, that's correct. The Cemetery Board has requested discussions regarding the obstacles they're currently facing and would like to have discussions with us and Zora. Staff are suggesting that we should proceed to have those discussions with them and are therefore bringing this forward for council consideration.
Okay, could I have a Councillor Petrie? I believe you have the motion. Let's read that motion, and then we can discuss. I know there's the third one down there is putting in a representative, but at this point in time, if you could read the first two right now, we can discuss it. Enter in the second one, ask for a seconder, and make the motion.
Perfect. Moved by myself that the council for the town of Ingersoll receives staff report C-23-20 as information, and further that council advises the cemetery board that they are willing to discuss the future needs regarding day-to-day operations and governance of the Ingersoll Rural Cemetery, and that they appoint a member of the council to act as a representative to the discussions regarding the cemetery.
Thank you. Could I have, I won't ask for a seconder yet because we do not have a name in place. I'm just going to throw out the first comment. I don't think question on my part is necessary. It's just mostly a comment. And that is that I think it's great that we sit down and discuss these things. I think the future of that cemetery, the cost on it right now has been major for Ingersoll. I wonder if that discussion might talk about actually the ownership of it, or et cetera, maybe somehow sort of a boundary. You never know into that area, whatever. But I think that we should be discussing, this should be brought forward. And I'm just putting in Councillor Petrie has likely, of all the times I've been on council, I think the most active and the informative member of council on the cemetery board that has been, what's the word I want to use, Brian, forgive me, I think it's attentive is and bringing information forward to us and the concern he has for it. I would like to move that he be that representative if he is willing for it, but that's just my comment. And certainly we are open for any councillor to put forward any name. Councillor Lesser first, then Councillor Van Kooten-Bossens.
I'm going to agree with you, Your Worship. I feel that Brian has done a good job on the board and should be our representative. And I'm going to leave it open to Brian, though. The only thing I was going to say, Brian, is if you feel that a second counselor would be of assistance to you, because as being on the board, you're going to be there anyways for these discussions, I'd be willing to sit and help you out. But like I say, if there's only going to be one of us, it should be Counselor Petrie.
Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens?
That was my question is, can Councillor Petrie be our representative when he is already our representative on the board? And I don't know if you know the answer to that, Councillor Petrie, or not, or whether Michael might know the answer to that. I agree that I think that you should be, Councillor Petrie. You have done a fabulous job with this committee. But I agree with Councillor Lesser that if you can't, then we should have a second councillor there with you. So maybe if there's an answer to that question.
Councillor Petrie?
I would actually prefer, because I'm the council rep anyway, I appreciate the support, but I would like a second set of eyes as well on this. And just to give a little backstory, the cemetery is really at a transition point. We're at a milestone. We're having a lot of, our staff are getting older. There's been a lot of mention of people wanting to not return to their activities on the board. So our capital needs going forward. So there's lots of discussed ownership, that sort of thing. To tell you the truth, the original agreement was signed in 1955 and last amended in 1980. So it's been a while. It's definitely time for a fresh look at it. And but I'm more than willing to have one or more sit at the table to make sure that we get a good view of this.
If we're able to have more than one at the table, I would be more than willing to put my name forward also. Yeah. Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, definitely Councillor Petrie would be a huge plus to having them there as a council representative. But as his term ending in the end of 2020, and then I'm taking over from 2021 to 2023 or 2022, I would like to be involved in that as well, so I can see what's going on, so I get an in-depth feel for what all is transpiring. So I'm just not plopped in on January 2021 and going, hey. So I kind of have an idea what's going on. Okay, and if I might make comment again on this, I apologize. I forgot that it was a broken up assignment onto the board. This wouldn't start really until 2021 anyway, correct? Well, depends on.
I mean, I'm just thinking. Here we are in September, and I'm thinking you're not going to see much action going between likely now and Christmas. You might, but whatever the status is, that I'm sure it's going to be taken over there. So I'm thinking that if that's the case, and you're going on, Rick, in January 1st, that we have the two. If we just have the two reps, then it should be you and Brian, as far as I'm concerned. So even if Brian goes off the board, he's on there as a support. If Brian agrees to that, certainly. Councillor Petrie.
You're right. Time flies, and I didn't realize how late it was. So I would agree to that. I would definitely love to. I would say I support Councillor Hughes' appointment to the board, but there's always undone business, right? So I would love to be able to help out with that, and again, transition Councillor Hughes as well with some information.
That's good. And I think that once the board starts to collectively, I mean, if we are allowed, this is a big decision for the town of Ingersoll also. We are allowed up to 3 councillors on a board, so that we're not dominating in any shape. So if we see at that point in time on the configuration of this, the grouping together, we could always come back to council and bring on an additional member for the board for the sakes of usefulness, and like you said, Brian, just another set of eyes. Deputy Mayor Freeman.
Thank you, Your Worship. But you did put your name forward, and so did Councillor Lesser. So we should hear from the two of you. You've said that you would be happy with Councillor Hughes. What about Councillor Lesser?
like all I'm saying is that, yeah, and I respect you, Councillor Lesser, on that, and certainly your comment and to stay on board. I don't for a decision. All I'm saying is that if Rick is going onto the board, and all of us had thought that Brian should be there, and if we are only allowed two, then that kind of brought it together. But certainly, Councillor Lesser, I will withdraw my name because you have two on right now. If we're going for three at some point in time, then I would put my name back in for the third position. If we're going with two, then I will withdraw my name right now. But I will not speak at all for Councillor Lesser.
Well, I'll speak for Councillor Lesser. I'm comfortable with Councillor Petrie and Councillor Hughes, and especially from Councillor Petrie, if he feels that a third councillor is required, then as the mayor said, we can bring this back up and add another councillor at that time.
Okay, Councillor Petrie, I believe you have the motion and the ability to throw in those two names.
I do. So I will reread the third part and further that Councillor Hughes and Councillor Petrie be appointed to act as a council representative to the discussions regarding the cemetery.
Terrific. Could I have a seconder on that, please? Councillor Lesser, thank you very much. And those opposed? Thank you. This has been moved. Okay, request for a crossing guard. I believe that's a game back with you, Michael. Michael, are you frozen?
Frozen. Oh, there you go.
Now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. My computer's freezing a little bit. Staff received this request regarding a crossing guard at the Bell and Thames Street North intersection. Staff reviewed the previous study that was completed in 2012. At that time, the consultants recommended not having a crossing guard in that location as it was an intersection with a stoplight and a crosswalk light. The study was following the Ontario Traffic Council guidelines. Staff are extremely concerned if individuals are not following the crosswalk lights and advancing through the intersection, putting pedestrians at risk. If individuals are doing that, it is clearly breaking the law, and adding a crossing guard may not be a deterrent, as there already should be a significant deterrent, being the stoplights and the legal ramifications of that. So one of the first recommendations is to increase law enforcement in that area. Staff do not recommend adding a crossing guard at this time, as to do so would step outside of the Ontario Traffic Council guidelines, which are at least something that council can follow, that's administered and reviewed annually, and gives council something to say that we've actually done a legitimate process. One other option would be for council to discuss at budget time having an update to the study, the crossing guard study, done next year.
Okay. I think what I might have is, Rick, for you to read the motion, and then for us to, unless there are questions that should be asked now or before the motion is read. Councillor Hughes?
To the clerk through you, please. What would be the ramifications, costs, if we put a temporary crossing guard in there, meaning for a certain period of time? Because I'm thinking what we should do is through the Police Services Board, bring up this issue with the OPP and have them do some enforcement on that during the school times. But in an effort to keep our kids safe initially, say, let's put a crossing guard there temporarily. And then once we get an OPP officer or some enforcement or some, at least some visuals from the police to say that, this, at these certain times, there's no issues. I don't believe there's been any complaints about that intersection lodged with the OPP, whether it be through online or through phone calls in. But I have seen myself at different times of the day where people have, shot through, cheating the red light kind of thing, and, just ripping around the corner on a right turn coming south on Thames Street just to beat the red light. That is, of course, as stated, illegal behavior. And I don't know, it's just something that, I would hate for school to start tomorrow or whenever they start, if they haven't started already. Sorry, I don't have kids in school right now. Whether there would be, just some form of comfort for the parents that are having their kids walk to school now.
If I might, Clarke, just tossing a thought there, Council Use, and that is I'd hate to have a cross walking guard there and then pull them. I don't think you want, if you're going to put one in, you put one in. If you're not going to, then you don't. I don't know, pulling one out might be more damaging for grade 2s and grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, whatever the heck it is to have it. But having enforcement there and asking for enforcement to be there during the school startup to make sure that people are paying attention to the situation, not just the drivers, but also the kids. I know that crossing through Max Milk to the high school, they don't use the crosswalk, or they don't use the lights anyway. They just cross heavily. And so what you're doing is also introducing then kids to do the same thing back and forth. So we should be really having some sort of police surveillance there during the first while to make sure that if that's an issue, if it's a situation, then let's show the enforcement there for a while rather than a guard. But that's Clarke, I'm sorry if I jumped in on there. You had an answer.
Perhaps I could just speak to it. Yes, there is not a significant cost to adding one crossing guard, but I caution council, because once you start adding a crossing guard to a location with a stoplight, you're stepping outside of the Ontario Traffic Council guidelines. Therefore, if anyone requests crossing guards in any other locations that normally wouldn't require one in the Ontario Traffic Council guidelines, you really don't have any reason to say no. So adding multiple crossing guards does become an expense. And the other problem we have is we have grave difficulty keeping enough crossing guards employed. We are always seeking more crossing guards. It's actually difficult to add crossing guards. We're at this time of year where we are struggling to make sure we have enough crossing guards for all the locations. We try to hire backups, and it's very difficult. So to add multiple more crossing guards could become difficult and to practically acquire, and could become costly.
Thank you. Councillor Petrie, then Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think we all know how I feel about having to call to get effective police service. So I believe that I would hope that the police force, and I believe they do, they recognize that it's school starting a season again, and they usually ramp up their enforcement during that time to give everybody that reminder. Hey, there's little ones walking to school. But again, I agree that a gentle reminder is always good as well. I agree that, I feel for this person. I'm glad that they're training their child to cross safely. They're doing all the walks. I commend them for that. But I'm up for looking at renewing that study. It's been a couple of years, so maybe demographics have changed and stuff like that. But I would rather follow the OTC guidelines than do it willy-nilly.
Thank you. Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens.
So I'm going to be the pain in the butt tonight on this one. I agree with Council Use, but I want to go one step further. I want us to put a crossing guard there. It is the only crossing against 10th Street to Laurie Hawkins School. When I went through and read what the study did in 2012, they went against the guidelines and said, nope, we're not going to have one, even though it was recommended, or yes, we were going to put one there, even when it wasn't recommended. So I don't feel that we're setting precedents. I feel that we are taking care of our children that are coming from the east side of the north side, coming over to Laurie Hawkins. not so much worried about our high school students. I think that they can follow that kind of thing. There are some kids though that are walking, and which is good to see. Maybe not as many as it used to be. It used to be that when I went to school at Princess Elizabeth, there was a crossing guard at 10th Street at that light. Why? Because they had all of the kids coming from the west side of the North End over to Princess Elizabeth. So with things that have happened in our town, a mother being killed as she was crossing with the lights, being killed, she managed to get her baby out of the way, thank God. I think that it's something that we really should be looking at. And I personally do not want to wait for a study to be done. I'd be interested to know how they did that study, because there was a lot of different things that they complained about within the study. I managed to read all of that, and it was a very interesting read. I'm very curious on how they do their study, because some of the things that they brought up, I would have never thought that they would have brought up. And some of the things that they should have brought up, it never came up. So I'm asking council to, yes, you're right, maybe set precedents tonight, but I think that we should have a crossing guard at 10th Street. It should not be temporary, and that we should update the study. I'd like to see how many kids are crossing there, and that we ask OPP to up their enforcement as well. People running red lights in this day and age is happening constantly. We need to stop it. Kids' lives are at stake. They're starting to go back to school. And I personally don't want to hear about a kid being hit at that crossing. So those are my thoughts. Thank you, Your Worship.
Further comment? Councillor Lesser.
Through you to Michael. If we are going to put a crossing guard in, Michael, and we have to find somebody new, how long roughly do you think by the time we hire them, train them, do whatever training is necessary and get them in place? The other question is, I realize we would normally, let's say, give this to Police Services Board, but considering kids started back to school today, cannot council just directly send a request to the OPP saying that we need stronger enforcement? Because if it's going to be 2 weeks down the road, it's too late. It needs to be at the start here that we need to be doing this. So I don't know if you can answer those or not, Michael.
I can't answer the one about hiring. We'd have to look at our complement right now. We'd have to call some of our backups to see what their availability is. We might be able to fill that role rather quickly. Just depends on availability of some of our backups. If we have to hire additional, it's hard to peg a time on that. It would be at least a couple weeks. And I would say, as far as the OPP go, if council directs us to send a correspondence to the OPP asking for additional enforcement, we'll send that correspondence tomorrow.
Okay, now we're into the position of, we have in front of us not conflicting, but the motion doesn't read anything about placing a crossing guard. So I believe that, Rick, we don't have a seconder on this yet. The way it is read, it can be changed now because it doesn't have to be amended because it hasn't been read. Or does it? Because it was posted, does it have to be? You don't have to vote on amendment if it hasn't been read, right? Thank you, Clerk. Yes. Okay, so how would you like this to be read? I'm going to go back to Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens and say, how would you like, you have the motion in front of you there. I don't want you to read it as a motion, but how would you like the motion? I know you do. I know you do, Councillor Hughes. I know, but I was just saying, asking Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens how she would like that to be read, because then we can vote, and if it's turned down, then you're going to go back to whatever this is to work with it. But if we do this, then you can't really go back and put in a crossing guard. You kind of have to figure out whether you want the crossing guard first, and if not, then you go with the second reading. Deputy Mayor Freeman.
Thank you, Worship. I've been keeping quiet, but I guess I'm getting how I'm really struggling with the wording on what I want to say here. But again, we have that crossing guard. Okay, we have that light that's there. It's doing its job. And it's the traffic, it's the people, there's the drivers that are not doing theirs. And we don't have the policing that are supposed to be policing it and enforcing it. And so we're going to hire a crossing guard. Well, what about Charles Street? What about King Street? We're going to put a crossing guard down at Bell. Then we're going to have people here next week, or sorry, next month, next week, as soon as they hear about this, requesting the same thing in the two more streets. I don't know, where's it going to stop? Or should we be putting them there? I don't think we should be discussing just one situation here, just because one letter came in, or more than one, it doesn't matter. Again, I don't want to sound that I don't care, because I certainly do care. But yet in the same token, staff is saying they don't recommend we go down this path because of the issues that we're going to be involving ourselves in. Well, I'm just bringing them forward now because we're going to hear about them.
Councillor Petrie.
Thank you. Yeah, I think Deputy Mayor Freeman brought up a good point there. And so that is a controlled intersection. It has lights, it has crosswalks. Whereas the other areas where there are typically crossing guards, they're not controlled intersections. So you have the ability for traffic to, they're not usually stopped. Bell Street being up the road being like that, the traffic has the right of way, whereas this is an intersection where traffic is supposed to stop. So this is a traffic enforcement issue. Do I want kids to be safe? Of course I do. We also have to be responsible with our resources that we put out. We don't want to have a situation where crossing guards are not being placed where they absolutely should be. But again, I do believe because it's a controlled environment, it is safer than just cars going 100% with the flow of traffic.
Do you have something new, Deputy Mayor Freeman?
Thank you, Worship. Yes. Again, no, Councillor Petrie, I didn't mean the other crosswalks at Bell. I'm talking about the other crosswalks downtown where we have controlled lights. So if we have one light that's dangerous because people aren't adhering to it, they're going driving through red lights, they're turning right without stopping. How dangerous are the other ones? I'm talking King Street, I'm talking Charles Street. Again, is it equally as dangerous? We're just not hearing about it.
Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens?
Is it possible to get a listing of where all of our crosswalks are then, Michael, through to you to Michael? Because there are crossing guards at intersections that have stop signs, but because they're crossing a major intersection, and I feel that 10th Street is a pretty major intersection, we don't have any other crossing guards along 10th Street on the north end to get kids from that side over to Laurie Hawkins. I don't know whether you guys realize that. There is nothing up 10th Street North to get them across. There's no crossing guards. I've driven past there many mornings all last year, and there was no crossing guards up there. So how are kids supposed to get across the road if people aren't following? And I agree that it is a traffic issue. Absolutely. However, if people aren't stopping, then shouldn't we be trying to protect them and get them across from the east side over to the west side? So if that's the case, if we don't decide to put one there, I would like a list of where all the crossing guards are, because I would like a full review of all of our crossing guards and where things are at so that we can make better decisions and make sure that all of our kids are protected in this town. I think it needs to all be looked at then if that's the case. Thank
you. Councillor Hughes?
Yeah, I definitely back up what Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens is saying. That is Highway 19. There's a lot of truck traffic coming in to town that way. whether it's coming in off of Highway 2 straight down Thames Street, or whether it's coming in from Thamesford on Highway 19 and turning right onto Thames Street. There is a lot of traffic there. Enforcement, definitely, because I was, as we were talking here, I was going to send an email via the PSB through the chair tonight to the detachment commander, requesting some enforcement there due to these issues that is being reported by the mother who signed the letter to council. As Councillor Van Kooten-Bosen says, yeah, definitely, we need to protect our kids. And she is right. That is the only, there is no crossing guards from the east side of Thames Street to the west side of Thames Street. And I'm sure you've all driven up and down that road. It can be, like any road, to any person, can be a raceway.
Councillor Lesser?
Hearing the arguments, I realize it is a controlled intersection. I guess my question would be then, because we don't have a crossing guard anywhere else on Thames Street from there up to, say, North Town Line, is it redundant to put the crossing guard at that intersection, or are we better off to put the crossing guard at another location farther up the road? Right? Because again, I realize what people are saying, but yeah, it's been brought up. It is a controlled intersection. If it's a policing problem, we obviously need to talk to the OPP, but will putting a crossing guard stop that? Or I'm just going to say the Legion, I don't know where you'd put the crossing guard. That's something we'd have to figure out, but are we better to put a crossing guard farther up Thames Street for the kids to cross?
Okay,
and then
I'm sorry, please continue. Sorry.
Then they've got two options for crossing.
Yeah. All I'm saying is now we're getting out of what we were we're getting away from the motion and into a study of crossing guards and where they're positioned.
Yep.
And not that there's anything wrong with that, and not that maybe we should be looking at that. Is it council's responsibility to say where crossing guards are, and is it our responsibility, or does it go through staffing and the OPP on recommendations and for direction? Clerk, maybe you could assist me here in this situation on what the motion reads and what we have our council on what direction they would like to see something. Do we make a motion and either accept it or turn it down, then make another motion to be able to get something finalized through here on the direction we want to go in? Or because the motion at this point in time doesn't read of installation of a crossing guard, but it does imply that we need some sort of maybe police attention there until we can justifiably see if our crossing guards are where they're best used at this point in time.
I would say that if you're going to look at anything in a comprehensive way, you really should be doing some kind of a study. It's certainly not my skill set to determine where crossing guards should be. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a traffic engineer. So, it should be something that if you're going to look at it on a broader perspective, you probably need to have some kind of a comprehensive report done with some specialty skills to do that. The resolution that you currently have it's council's resolution. They can do whatever they want with it. They can ignore it. They can rewrite it. They can say it however they want. If somebody else wants to raise the resolution, we provide these resolutions to assist you and make your lives a little simpler, but it's really up to council what they want to say and how they want to say it.
Thank you, sir. Okay, going back to Councillor Hughes there, you have a motion. You can rewrite it or change it or whatever the status is at this point in
So
time?
we'll start with this one option. We'll go moved by myself, Councillor Use, that the Council of the Town of Ingersoll receive report C-024-20's information. And further, that Council requests the OPP increase enforcement at the Bell and Thames Street North intersection to ensure pedestrians cross safely. And this will be the addition, and that Council directs staff to place a crossing guard on the corner of Thames and Bell Street. And further that, Council direct staff to bring forward at budget time the study that needs to be done to look at the crossing guards required in Ingersoll.
Okay, did we get that, Clerk? There's two additionals on there. One is that we put a crossing guard and the other one is that we do a study. I'm going to ask at this point in time, before we get a seconder on there, CAO.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, as the clerk has aptly stated, it's council's resolutions, but rather than confuse the issue, why don't we break Councillor Hughes' resolution up into 4 different ones? I think council agrees on, that we ask for police enforcement, receive the report, then put the next items on separate resolutions that you can deal with just in their isolation, that a crossing guard be placed at that intersection, deal with that as a separate resolution. And then a 4th resolution is to bring back a report as part of budget process for the study and long-term crossing guard placements, if I understood correctly. But I think, rather than breaking it up, I think the first 2 points are probably acceptable to most council members. Deal with them separately, then get on to the more contentious one, and then wrap it up with the final one. Just my suggestion for council.
I think then, Councillor Hughes, you can make that into 3 if you're willing. These 2 right here can go on to 1, and then there's another one to the application to put in a crossing guard, and number 2 to do a study.
Okay, so the original motion is that Council of the Town of Ingersoll receive report C-024-20's information, and further that Council requests the OPP increase enforcement at the Bell and Thames Street North intersection to ensure pedestrians cross safely. That's the original motion that was typed up.
And that's the motion that first motion you're putting forward.
That will be the first motion I am putting forward.
Could I have a seconder on that, please? Councillor Petrie. Okay, so we will be opening discussion right now on that. Do we have anyone with comment before we vote? Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens.
Can we have staff, instead of waiting for PSB, can we have direct staff to put that from the Town of Ingersoll tomorrow morning, please?
Yeah, actually, we make that amendment, definitely. We instruct staff, our council requests the OPP increase through staff.
Thank you.
Does that sound better?
Yeah, no, just so that we're not waiting. I mean, Councillor Lesser's right. School has started. So if we wait, for PSB to meet and all that, right? So.
Councillor Petrie, you agree with that as seconder? Okay. Further discussion? Those opposed? This is approved. Okay, now, Councillor Hughes or Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens, who would like to make the motion of the...
Councillor Hughes can. He's still going forward.
Okay, Councillor Hughes.
Okay, moved by Councillor Hughes that council directs staff to place a crossing guard on the corner of Thames and Bell Street. Period. That's it.
Could I have a seconder on there, please? Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens, thank you. Discussion. Those opposed? 1, 2.
Where's
What?
Deputy Mayor?
I can't see it. Where is he?
He's
Where'd he
gone.
go?
He must have had.
Who's on the phone call? There's somebody on the phone.
Is that
Yeah, but
okay?
he's
I
not
don't
even
know.
on here.
That's fine. We have 2 opposed, then this is passed. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm confused. Passed as,
Carried.
I'm sorry that it was not carried. It was not carried. We only had, sorry, it was passed because we only had 2 oppositions.
Hold it. Excuse me, Your Worship. We just got a message from Fred that he just lost his connection and he's trying to reconnect.
Okay, so let's pause.
me.
Let's pause for a time frame.
Okay.
okay, Michael, can you play the theme from Jeopardy, please?
Just can't seem to find that theme on my computer here, so.
Oh,
Do we have IT on board tonight?
Yes, we do.
Is there any assistance they can give Fred?
I think it's his own issue there. I don't think that he can do anything to trigger it.
does Fred have the call-in information that if he were just to call in by and just participate in voice?
It's on your council invite there, yes.
So what about those Leafs, eh?
Your Worship, just through you to our clerk, Michael, this can't be the first time that they've had failure of connections on council meetings. Has the province given any sort of guidelines as to what is a required time to wait? Or is this something that is just being winged by most council?
No, you don't have any guidelines on what the time to wait is. You go by the individuals that are in your meeting right now. You handle them. You have a quorum still. You don't have to wait. What you're doing in waiting is giving that person a chance to be a part of the vote. You do have an item in your procedure bylaw that if not enough people show up for a quorum, you wait for a period of time and then the meeting's canceled. That's about the only time limitation that's in your procedure bylaw. So the only reason you're doing this is to see if Fred can participate, but it's totally up to the chair to determine if he wants to proceed with the quorum that he has currently.
There I am back on. My only thought was that if it's a 5-minute trying to get yourself hooked up again, I have no issues with this. If it continues on for longer than that, then the meeting can't hold. As long as you have quorum, then we have to proceed.
Yeah, as
I think just politeness as such, if we lose contact, it's always nice to be able to give a counselor a chance to be able to get back on. Sorry, Bill, you were going to say something?
yes, I think, Mr. Mayor, as Michael, the clerk, has just said, it's really up to the discretion of the chair. It might be something that we have to look at revisiting in our procedural bylaw if we continue to go forward with electronic meetings. But, I think, like you said, a 5-minute wait is reasonable, and at the discretion of the chair, you make the determination when it's time to move on with the items.
So he's been off now for just about 3.5 minutes. So.
Is there any other way that Fred would be able to participate electronically if he were to text the clerk his direction of vote?
No, but he could call in.
He can call in. I'm just talking to him. Hang on. Let me put myself on mute here.
I did the same thing. I was just talking to him a few minutes ago. He said it just went dead. He said he's trying it again. I said, asked him if he would just call in. Okay, folks, let's, we have quorum.
I've just
So
provided
let's-
instructions on how to call in, but I don't know if that will trigger or not.
Okay, he could take over on that once he gets back on board. We have the motion on the table right now on the crossing guard being placed on Bell Street. So I will ask for a show of hands for those in favor. 1, 2. Ask a show of hands for those opposed. Okay, this is turned down at this point in time, but I believe that I would like to see the studies done as soon as possible with our next motion, so that if we could have the OPP at the Bell Street right now in the mornings to be able to watch that fairly closely and to see if we can take it from there on the certainly on the need, and maybe get feedback from them also at our next meeting on the need. You have another motion then, Councillor Hughes?
Yes, moved by myself, Councillor Hughes, that council directs staff to, at budget time, bring forward and include in the budget enough money of funds to do a study in regards to crossing guards.
Okay, seconder, Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens. Do we have a discussion? Councillor Petrie?
In what regards are we doing the same study that was done before to see the effectiveness of the current ones there? Are we doing a comprehensive study of where they should be?
Thank you. Good questions. I'm just going to move over to the clerk right now to see if the clerk has comment on those questions.
Staff would prepare for budget considerations what would be like a study looking at our current locations, previous locations, and perhaps a more comprehensive view of new locations too. And council could determine in budget process which part of the study they want to go with. I'd also like to point out that it appears that Fred's cell phone number is appearing in the list here. So,
okay. Fred, can you hear us?
Yes, I can, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So on this motion, did you hear the motion?
No, I just got on.
Okay, so I'm going to ask if it's at all possible for Councillor Use to reread the motion with Councillor Van Kootenbos seconding.
Actually, just a question first of the clerk. Would this be handled through a consulting firm, or would this be handled in-house by our engineering staff?
There would be some consulting done because no one on staff has the traffic. It's just like a traffic study that we would do for a subdivision or something like that. We don't do traffic studies in-house, and we even have them peer reviewed by consultants. So there would be at least the majority of the report work would be done by a consultant.
Okay. So the motion that was read earlier is that council directs staff to, at budget time, make a proposal to include a study regarding crossing guards and locations.
Okay.
And that was seconded by Van Kootenbos. Further discussion? I'm going to ask you separately, Fred, if that's okay, but those in favor? Okay, and opposed? Fred, you do a yay or a nay?
Nay.
Nay, okay. This is passed. Like now to go to parking permit review. Michael? You're on mute, Michael.
Thank you. I will try to make this one less controversial. Increased enforcement has increased demand for overnight parking permits during the winter months. And as such, staff are recommending that additional parking spaces be added to the overnight permit parking spots on the Charles Street lot. Staff are also recommending the creation of a 4-month parking permit that will provide better customer service to those individuals that require an overnight parking permit during the winter months and not require them to come in to the office every month to get a new parking permit.
Okay, now, I believe Deputy Mayor Freeman, you have the motion. Are you able to read a motion?
Yes, I am.
Okay, okay.
Your worship.
Certainly then, if you would read the motion, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Okay, I'm getting there, Your Worship. And this is the parking permit review, correct?
Correct.
And getting there. Okay, moved by myself that the council for the town of Ingersoll receive staff report C-025-20 as information, and that council agrees to the relocation of permit parking in the Charles Street lot from the north row to the south row, allocating the entire south row as permit parking. And further, that council agrees to the introduction of a reduced rate 4-month parking permit.
Could I have a seconder on this, please? Thank you, Councillor Lesser. Just questions or comments? Just one I have is this, we don't allow parking so that they can be properly plowed. How does this, putting additional parking, how does this affect the overall process of clearing the roads?
Sorry, we don't allow parking on street. This is parking in the specific
I'm
lots.
sorry, parking in the parking lot itself, as far as plowing goes, et cetera. How is that going to affect its cleaning?
It may affect some cleaning, but we'll hopefully to work around that, for the lots. We bounced this off Public Works. They were fine with this. We already do certain areas. We're just expanding on the permit parking areas that we currently do.
Thank you, Clarke. Further comments or thoughts? Councillor Use?
So just looking at the Charles Street lot diagram, so that basically takes up that full row of permit parking. Now, is that eliminating permit parking from all the other lots in town, or is that just strictly an addition to existing permit parking spots?
If you look at that diagram, it's actually moving the parking from the other side, which is indicated in green. There's only those ones there. over to the other side, so expanding it. That's the only change.
Okay,
The green is becoming the orange.
right. And one more question. Was there, and I'm not sure what the complete agreement was with the Carnegie Hall business. Was there any discussion with them, or was there any agreement with them in regards to supplying any parking for them for their functions? No, I see the CAO's head shaking his head saying, no, there's nothing. Okay, no problem. That was my only questions for this.
Okay. Those in favor? 1, 2, 3. Those opposed? Passed. We're going down to a planning report. Planning report for Clarke Road subdivision.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have Mr. Ron Verstegen, our planner, here tonight to speak to the report, provide the planning recommendation, and answer any questions the council might have.
Good evening, Ron. I believe you're on mute, Ron.
No, his mic's not working, or he hasn't got his volume up.
Technology. Do you have headphones plugged in, Ron, by any chance? Must have been something I said.
You text me, Ron, and I'll read your words.
Oh my goodness.
I'll do the best Ron impersonation I can do.
Yeah, we're not getting you, Ron. Sorry.
Yeah. Did you want to try calling in, Ron? I can send you the telephone numbers.
Yes, if we can give just the clerk 1 minute to send the planner the telephone numbers, he can talk on the phone and we can see him at the same time.
Hello.
Yeah, hi, Ron.
Hi, Ron.
Sorry about that. Technology. So, as council is aware, this is a plan of subdivision, industrial plan of subdivision. I think council is aware of the location. It's on the south side of Clarke Road, west of Harris Street. The intent of the subdivision is to create a eight industrial blocks, stormwater management block, 6 new streets for local access, and then 6 blocks for road widening purposes. In terms of the submission, the town also prepared 2 engineering reports. One was a stormwater management facility report prepared by Burnside Associates. The second was a transportation plan that was prepared by Transplan Transportation Engineering. And as a bit of a background for council, there was also an environmental impact study that was prepared, but that was going back to 2017, and that actually enabled the zoning on the lands to be established to what they are today. In terms of provincial policy, planning staff feel the application is consistent. It promotes economic development and competitive by providing for an appropriate range and mix of employment lands. It also provides opportunities for a diversified economic base within the community. Moving forward with respect to the official plan, the lands are already designated for industrial purposes. They do allow for a wide range of industrial purposes, including various institutional type uses, including a rec facility. In terms of zoning, as mentioned, the property is also zoned. That zoning was established back in 2017. It has a special general industrial zoning on the property, which allows for a wide range of industrial uses, including warehousing, manufacturing, truck transportation terminals, any food processing type of operations, as well as a municipal recreational facility. The application was circulated to a number of commenting agencies that are reflected in the planning report, including the Minister of Transportation, County Public Works, Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, and then the various utilities. Just to summarize those comments, they are all fairly straightforward, and they're supportive. There is a number of conditions that are included in the recommendation that really kind of summarize the issues that were raised through the agency circulation. In terms of public consultation, the only comment that was received from neighboring landowners is attached to the report. I think council's already seen it at the previous report that was considered by you back in August. They come from the Southside group, who are the landowners of the commercial block to the immediate east. And they were really just kind of summarizing or detailed some questions with respect to servicing and so forth. Now, town staff has responded to those back last month, and at this point we've heard no further issues or raised any issues from Southside. So in terms of the planning review, Mr. Mayor and Council, we feel the application is consistent with provincial policy. It maintains the intent of the official plan and is appropriately zoned. I think really what the point to make here is that the land's already designated for industrial purposes. They're already appropriately zoned for industrial purposes. So really all we're doing here is just identifying how the blocks can be developed and identifying the public streets for access through the subdivision. So subject to any other questions, that's the extent of my presentation.
Thank you very much, Ron. I'm just going now back to council for questions. Councilor Hughes.
Through you, Mayor, to Ron, you said that the reply to Southside Group was sent last month with no reply back from them. Did you? I'm not seeing your reply back to them here in the report. Is that something that we have the option of looking at, or is it already included somewhere else in the report?
Through the mayor, to answer the councilor's question, no, we didn't detail the exact response to Southside. We can provide it to you if you want to. That's not a problem at all.
CAO.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, through you to Councillor Hughes, the response or the questions basically from Southside were part of their property will need to be serviced as far as the stormwater management is concerned, and access to Clarke Road. And the access to Clarke Road is part of the expropriation order that we have to work cooperatively and fund cooperatively and access for them. And our engineers who are doing our planning for the subdivision have incorporated the whole drainage area that flows into the storm pond. And we just replied to Southside saying, yes, we're aware they're concerned. Yes, we're factoring that into our engineering. And once the draft plan is approved, we'll forward our information to them so that they can work on harmonizing their plans with our plans.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Freeman, not seeing you. Do you have any questions or comments?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Other council members, we're okay for the motion to be read. Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens.
Thank you. Moved by myself that the Council of the Town of Ingersoll will advise County Council that they support the application for draft plan of subdivision file number 32T-07007 as submitted by the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll for lands described as part lots 19 and 20, concession 2 West Oxford, in the Town of Ingersoll, consisting of 8 industrial development blocks and a stormwater management block, 6 local streets, 6 blocks for road widening purposes, subject to the conditions of draft approval detailed in report CP 2020-210.
Could I have a seconder on that motion, please? Thank you, Councillor Petrie. Further comments? Seeing none, those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Deputy Mayor?
I'm in favor, Your Worship. Yay.
Okay. Those opposed? This is approved. Thank you very much for the motion. Thank you, Ron. Oh, he's gone. Correspondence and resolutions. County Council composition report and resolution. Councillor Lesser, please.
Moved by myself that the council for the town of Ingersoll receive county report CS 2020-33 regarding county council composition and the survey results as information.
Discussion? I'm sorry, a seconder? I need a seconder first, sorry. Councillor Petrie, thank you. Discussion, Councillor Petrie?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody who took time to do the survey, for one, because it's important to our upper tier government about what people think about how their warden should be elected, about other people. I wish more people, the only thing I would say is I wish more people, a lot of people participated, but there was one statistic there that I found a little bit funny, was that they asked if you had read the report, and the majority of the people had said they had not read the report. And the other part of the majority was, well, I read some of the report. So I like people participating, but I do encourage people to read what's provided to get the full scope. It might change your views on some things, but I appreciate people participating.
Thank you, Councillor. Further comment? Those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Deputy Mayor Freeman?
Yay.
Okay, those opposed? This motion is carried. BIA resolution, Councillor Petrie, please.
You're on.
I apologize. Everybody's having technical difficulties, and my computer is none different. So we will. Moved by myself that the Council for the Town of Ingersoll accepts the resolution from the Ingersoll BIA and further agrees, or so I will put agrees the request for the 10th Street to be closed from King Street to Charles Street from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. on November 19th, 2020 for the lighting of the lights subject to adherence to public health, town, and provincial guidelines.
Seconder on this, please. Councillor Lesser. Comments, questions? My only question is didn't we pass at some point in time that we allowed administration to kind of deal with road closures?
Yeah, I think we did.
You do have that, but usually the BIA requests that council agrees with these kinds of.
Oh, I see. Okay. No, I got no issue, but I thought we had gone through that it didn't necessarily have to go to council for this. And
Yeah,
if it does, it does. What the heck?
Normally, Your Worship, if I may, that's for kind of emergency or overnight kind of emergency situations where we may have to close the road for traffic or safety. But for big issues like this, we would bring them to council.
Oh, okay. Good enough then. Those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Deputy Mayor?
Yay.
Those opposed? This is passed. Thank you. We have a Rotary Christmas Parade, Councillor Use.
Moved by myself, Councillor Hughes, that the council for the town of Ingersoll receives the correspondence from the Rotary Club of Ingersoll regarding the Christmas parade as information. And for those that haven't read it, it's the cancellation of the Christmas parade.
Yes. Could I have a seconder on that, please? Councillor Petrie? Would anyone like thoughts or comments? Councillor Lesser?
I just gonna say I'm gonna be extremely disappointed that we don't get to listen to your wonderful commentary and witticisms as the parade goes by this year, Your Worship.
Well, I'm just gonna sit outside, Gordon Lesser. I'm just gonna sit outside your store and just kind of comment as cars go by, just so you got something there. Further comment? Those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Those opposed? This is passed. I have West Gray Solution, Deputy Mayor Freeman.
Yes, Your Worship. Coming right up. Moved by myself that the council for the town of Ingersoll receives the resolution regarding anti-racism from West Gray as information.
A seconder on that, please. Councillor Lesser, thank you. Discussion or questions? Councillor Hughes?
Why is this on Township Azora letterhead and addressed to Glazier?
What happens sometimes, Councillor, is that we may receive it, and in that request, it's asked to pass it on to other municipalities for their thoughts and motions. Okay. That's usually how it works. I know ours that went from Ingersoll. I was at different councils where it was brought up, the motion, and it was brought up from a municipality next door, not from Ingersoll whatsoever. So I believe that's how it moves around.
Okay.
Clerk, anything different on that comment that I made?
Oh, that's correct.
Okay. Okay. We have, of course, less. Okay. No further questions. Those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Those opposed? It's passed. Moving on right now to bylaws. So we can go into the committee of the whole to introduce the bylaws 205103 to 205107. Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens, please.
Thank you. Moved by myself that the mover have leave to introduce and go into committee of the whole on the following bylaws. Bylaw 20-5103 gas tax bylaw. Bylaw 20-5104 dedicate part of Minler Street. Bylaw 20-5105 boundary adjustment agreement. Bylaw 20-5106 appointment of CBO. And bylaw 20-5107 confirmation bylaw. Council and Committee of the Whole, Mayor Comiskey and the Chair. On motion, the bylaws are accepted as circulated. That constitutes the first and second reading of the bylaws.
Could I have a seconder on this, please? Councillor Hughes, thank you.
No, I didn't want to second it. I was going to ask if we could have the boundary adjustment bylaw voted on separately.
Certainly, since it's not
Sorry about
seconded,
that, Rick. I should have done that for you.
since it's not seconded, that's fine. If Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens, then you can make another motion at the completion of this. So right now, it bypasses 205105 is not included in this package of bylaws to be approved at this point in time. Could I have a seconder on the 4 bylaws that are? Councillor Lesser, thank you very much. Could I have further comment on those 4 bylaws or questions? Seeing none, those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Opposed? This is passed. Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens on boundary adjustment agreement bylaw.
Your worship,
Yes,
sorry to cut in, but Deputy Mayor,
I did say yay.
you keep forgetting to ask the Deputy Mayor his opinion or his vote.
no, I ask everybody for their opinion. The vote wise, if I have enough majority to begin with, it really is. But he can always comment. Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens.
So I'll introduce now bylaw 20-5105 boundary adjustment agreement, and that this constitutes the first and second reading of this bylaw.
Could I have a seconder on that motion, please? Councillor Petrie, thank you. Excuse me. Thank you. Sorry. Discussion now, please, on this. Seeing none. On the bylaw itself, there was an original request on the bylaw. Does it need a recorded vote? Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Petrie?
Sorry, I muted myself there. I believe Councillor Hughes has he voted no in the past. I believe he wanted this so he could vote against. May I ask my fellow councillor his opinion on why he is voting no on this?
The reason why I'm voting no on this is I understand that we do need to expand as a town. We do need more residential. We do need more industrial. But we can't, as the old saying goes, throw out the baby with the bathwater. I feel it is a very, very rich deal that is going to cost the town of Ingersoll a lot of money. Do we make it back? Very possible. I hope I'm wrong by voting against this, but obviously it's in a majority, so it is bound to go through. However, I feel that it's just too expensive. The whole process was very trying, as everybody said earlier, and it's just a very rich deal that I just can't get behind. I'm sorry.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor. Because of the original request on this that it be recorded, is this necessary at this point in time? No, it's not necessary to continue on the recording of this bylaw. Thank you. Alrighty. So we had a seconder on that. We have had comments. Those in favor? 1, 2, 3. Deputy Mayor Freeman?
Yay.
Yay. 4. This is those opposed? This is passed. I'm sorry. Now to rise to go on the committee of the whole. Councillor Lesser, please.
Moved by myself that the committee do now rise out of committee of the whole.
Could I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens. Discussion? Now, those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Those opposed? Passed. I ask now for Deputy Mayor Freeman to read the bylaws. Now, you're going to have 2 packages there, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Worship. Okay, let's see. So I am going to be moved by myself that bylaws 20-5103, 04, 06, and 07 be now read a third time, passed, signed, and sealed, and that this constitutes the third reading of the bylaws.
Could I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Those opposed? It's passed. Deputy Mayor Freeman?
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself that bylaw, 20-5105 be now read a third time, passed, signed, and sealed, and that this constitutes the third reading of the bylaw.
Could I have a seconder on that, please? Councillor Lesser, thank you. All those in favor? Those opposed? This is passed. Thank you. Notices of motion. I have in-person council meetings. Councillor Lesser, please.
Moved by myself that staff be directed to bring forward a report outlining the necessary steps and procedural requirements of conducting an in-person council meeting while complying with Southwest public health guidelines during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Okay, do you have a seconder on that? We have a seconder here, Councillor Hughes. Can we have discussion, please?
No discussion on notice.
Oh, I'm sorry, but this notice wasn't far enough in advance to be able to have as a notice in advance.
Yeah, Your Worship.
Clerk?
Well, actually, it was. This one was submitted ahead of time. I'm on the agenda, so it can be voted on.
It can be or it should be?
Can be. Thank you.
Can be?
Should be, yeah.
Are we prepared to vote on this tonight, Gord, or are we allowing for the October meeting?
Well, all we're asking is that staff look into bringing forward a report for the October meeting about doing in council. It's not like we're going into in-council meetings in October. They've got to bring back a report. So to me, I don't see why we can't vote on it, just asking them to go ahead and bring us back a report.
Okay, we have, with our clerks bringing it to our attention, we have all the right to be able to vote upon this now. You have brought the motion forward. You have a seconder. We will have further discussion on this motion.
Sorry, Your Worship. Once we're done with this motion, there is one other point I'd like to quickly bring up. Say a second notice of motion.
Oh, okay. Now that is something that can't be voted on this evening unless council agrees to.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. Could I have a vote on this then, please? We have no further comment. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Deputy Mayor?
Yay.
Okay. Those opposed? This is forward. It was Councillor Hughes. I'm sorry, right? That seconded that, correct?
Yes.
This has been passed. Okay, I will. I'm going to move down right now, if I could, Councillor Lesser, to Councillor Petrie, a notice of motion, and then I will come back if you have a notice of motion to bring up for our next meeting. Councillor Petrie.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just before I get into this, I just want to thank staff for, especially Ramesh, for following up in the county with this issue. This is certainly not against our staff, but the work performed by the contractor. So whereas Bell Street is a county road and was reconstructed by the County of Oxford in 2019-2020, and whereas the landscape along the boulevards of the reconstructed portion was replaced during construction, and whereas there have been many large weeds that have continued to grow from that reconstruction and have produced a very unsightly entrance into our community, and whereas the town of Ingersoll staff have notified the county multiple times about the weeds, and whereas the town of Ingersoll will maintain the boulevards once the project is accepted by the County of Oxford, therefore be it resolved that the town of Ingersoll notify the county Ingersoll does not find the current state of the boulevards acceptable and ask that they are brought into a respectable state of repair in line with the contract requirements.
Am I correct, Clerk, that this was put out in advance, that with a seconder, it can be voted on this evening?
No, because this one was just introduced. It cannot now
Okay,
be.
good enough then. Thank you very much. So we don't have discussion on it at all. And we thank you very much, Councillor Petrie, for putting this forward. Back to Councillor Lesser on a notice of motion.
Yes, what I wanted to bring up was we all know at the end of next month, which will be the end of October, we are going to have Halloween. I was asked by a few people over the weekend what council is going to do about it, because the premier has said that he is turning it back to mayors and councils to decide whether their local municipalities will or will not allow Halloween to happen. Just to say, I was reading a article in the London Free Press from their Dr. Mackey, who is bringing a report forward to their council as to how this can happen. It's going to be a little late to bring it up to staff in October, so I'm bringing it up now and hoping that staff will be able to, I know it's a notice of motion, but also maybe have some sort of suggestions or report according to whatever the health department recommends as to whether we can or can't do this, because we will have to make a decision at our October meeting as to what is happening with it. I know that was rather wordy.
If I can not interrupt your motion as such, but maybe if we just put it to direct council to look into it with the Southwestern Health to be able to determine, because they've been advising us and helping us with direction up until now, and maybe administration can come back with a not necessarily a big report, but just on recommendations on whether we should or shouldn't through public health unit at the October meeting, and that we can decide on immediately and say yay or nay. But is that something that you, Councillor, would?
Yep, I'm fine with that.
And Clerk, are we okay as just a council to just direct?
Yeah, I think what you're really asking for is information from Southwestern Public Health. Several of us will be asking Southwestern Public Health what we can advise our citizens. When we get that correspondence from Southwestern Public Health about Halloween, we'll bring that correspondence forward to councils if council is aware.
Further comment, Councillor Lesser, is that okay?
Yeah, no, that's fine by me.
Thank you very much. I guess we actually are going now to go into closed session. Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens, you have the motion.
I certainly do. Thank you. Moved by myself that council do now go into closed meeting at 8:06 p.m. pursuant to section 239(2) of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended to discuss the following matters. Section 239(2), a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. 2, section 239(2)D, labor relations or employee negotiations. And 3, section 239(2)B, personnel matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees.
Could I have a seconder on that, please? Deputy Mayor Freeman, oh, you're back.
I'm back.
Okay, any discussion on this motion? Seeing none. Those in favor? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. Those opposed? Fred, you're opposed, but it passes anyway. I think that's it, folks. I think we now go to we shut out completely and go back into Zoom. Am I correct on that?
Yep.
We'll see you.
I should be able to join, I hope.
Okay. I'm leaving this meeting.